has 10% penetration and 15 above has 8, they grow at the same rate. And so there is no shortage of usage or desire to use the stuff for a silver population, although the starting point is a little bit lower. So I think they are using it for themselves as well as gifting.
The other thing, I have a couple points. So one is when you look at, I was thinking of Gary Small's points, when you screen out, when you screen sort of usage and adoption for education and income levels, you almost get even lines with older consumers. So it really is at that level, which is your customer, because they have the money to spend. They're really doing things exactly the same as 30-year-olds, except gaming or something.
Exactly.
So the other thing is, I think it's a great point. I don't know, Ken, do you have anything to add? Do you know about I think you had mentioned something about their influencers as purchasers for other members of the family, because we see a lot of that. And I don't know if you see that in your tech conversations or content.
Well, again, I think the biggest thing is we see a lot of things come in from our kids, and that's how we learn about them. But we're a little hesitant to buy because we tend to think that kids go for the coolest thing, and we want the most practical thing. And they're very flighty, and they'll go for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And we tend to buy something that's going to solve a long-term problem. And if you're going to try to get us to get rid of that thing, you have to tell us what your product will do that the one we already have doesn't do.
Right. And Lori, I'm thinking of the fact that I think this is what you were talking about, is that the mom who's 55, she loves Dell, and she's in charge of buying the computer for her aging father. She's going to go back to Dell. If she's buying a computer because she's paying for it for her son who's in grad school, she's going to say, let's work with Dell. Or if she likes Apple, or she uses the Geek Squad, right, that's going to be her go-to resource. So I think, in fact, I have not seen a great study on this, but I know it anecdotally is true that the boomer is leverageable for a lot more purchases than just their own tech usage and consumer electronics in their own household.
Yeah, at the workshop on Wednesday, we presented some more of the gadget research that we showed here that showed older children in the household, like 13 to 18-year-olds, really does amp up electronic purchases for households, and multiple iPads, multiple laptops, multiple televisions.
Right.
I mean, it's everything.
And my view is sometimes they have the veto, because if they're paying for it, they're not going to buy it if they don't approve it. So the kid is going to have to come, and has to make the case for it. And so that means they like that brand if they're paying for it, So I think there is a lot more attachment beyond their own purchases than we know. Yes? I don't know if everyone could hear. How important is the boomer? We've talked a lot about boomers and their kids. What about boomers' strategies for buying products for their parents? Something I think we talked about before our panel. So Mark, you want to start that?
Yeah, there is an increasing trend in that direction. There are 80 million baby boomers, roughly. About 30 to 35 million take care in some way of their parents. And they're increasingly getting involved in those purchase decisions. But we serve both segments, and about 80% of the products that we sell are self-purchase. So it's the senior buying for themselves or the baby boomer buying for themselves, not the crossover. But that's why we market to both. We think as time goes on, you'll see an increasingly phenomenon of people buying for the senior or helping them make that decision. Back to the gifting and trying to be consistent. When it's a need-based purchase, they buy it when they need it. They don't wait for a holiday. Mom fell, and therefore I know she needs a PERS unit, but I'm going to wait 3 months till Christmas to give it to her. No, they kind of do it when the need arises. But yes, that's an increasing trend that we see, and again, that's why we're in the market we're in, to be able to serve both.
And I think we've seen us commenting before we started that what we see is actually we have requests coming from stores for solutions, and because we're a national retailer, we often will have an occasion where either someone will be on vacation visiting a parent, and then they'll come into a store because in that visit they notice that there's some need. I think but it's clearly not an either or; it's an and. So the dynamic that our employees are telling us is that the son or daughter might introduce the idea, might start to initiate the conversation, but clearly it has to be something that the end user and the aging boomer wants. I'm sure it's not the right term to use, I apologize, but it has to go both ways. So it's really about education.
And I think in terms of selling boomers something that they don't have, I think caregiving is the great new frontier, because so many of us have not been confronted, even the older ones, the 65. I mean, when today 60-year-olds play basketball, when they were kids, no 60-year-olds played basketball twice a week. So we're forever young, and we see it. But so the parents of this demographic are facing this right now, and it's something they've never faced before. So caregiving opportunities are huge.
And a big opportunity, I don't think I've seen a good example of a company that had a product for the senior, but had two different campaigns with different messaging and different advertising, different outlets for the senior versus the boomer to really take, because if you're the child, you buy for a different reason. It's the same ultimate benefit than the parent would buy for themselves. So I think there's a lot of growth to be had in that space.
Stephen, we heard a statistic, I think Jeff reported it on Wednesday, that seniors report $50 in disposable or in income about that they're willing or have to spend on aging-in-place technologies. Now, if you think about all the aging-in-place technologies that are on the floor down here and what it costs even to get a PERS system into a home, and what that monthly subscription fee is going to be, and you've got a senior looking at a nursing home, or you're looking at a nursing home with your senior, versus these technologies, that $50 number tells you somebody's going to be picking up the tab for that, and it's probably going to be the family caregiver, or or their siblings, and so the companies that crack the code on caregiving and how to sort of.
Right, and how to communicate that difference, because they think they have 50, but if something goes wrong, they're going to be spending $5,000 a month.
Right, exactly.
And so they're
Exactly.
who can market successfully, say, why not try spending $1,000 a month for 3 years?
Yeah, and it's
which
been
will save you.
exacerbated by this economy where people are moving away from their families to get jobs. So we have more long-distance caregivers than we've ever had before. So now you not only have the cost of technology, but you have the cost of travel and the cost of being away from your job, and so
Right.
it's huge economic impact.
Yes. First question was about boomers' use inclination, adoption of reading magazines in other formats, like iPads and other formats, and then what magazines are doing well for men versus women, et cetera.
Yeah, I think a little bit of the magazine situation you talk about is a myth. Magazine readership in the past 5 years, kind of since Google's been out there, magazine readership among 50 and above is actually up. Newspaper, way down. I mean, across the board, but magazines are actually, the readership is up. And then the magazine, it's not easy, I think, to generalize what works best for men and women. It depends on the product. We try to target our products to more the demographic and the need than male, female. We'll go into arthritis today for a product that is like a mobility bath lift type of product that's universal for both. But there is some targeting if you have a watch, a male watch. We'll go into military officer. But it's fairly clear when you look at the magazines which ones are male or female skewed. But most of our advertising, again, is in these kind of universal reach products like ARP, Parade, USA Weekend, those type.
Ken, what do you have spent a lot of time in magazines. What do you see?
Well, readership may be up, but advertising certainly isn't. And coming from the buggy whip business of paper, ink on paper publishing, yeah, I think any way you can, if you really know the exact readership of a publication, and if your product is a perfect match, then that's really what you're looking for. So obviously you need to do some of the homework on your own as to who's reading the magazine, the demographics of it. The internet is obviously another great opportunity for marketing your product. That's the last item I can as to the way to do it.